Hey everyone, Mitch coming from the Commander's Corps studio. Welcome to the show. So last week, I think it was Tuesday. Wow, time flies. There was the Wizards' first look, I think is what they called it, for Phyrexia All Be One. Basically, a pre-spoiler season or day to the spoiler season because we need spoilers all the time, right, Wizards? Spoiler season starts on January 17th, just as a reminder. Regardless, on that day for the first look, they showed off a couple of cards from Phyrexia All Be One, including the brand new Elesh Norn. And yeah, I talked about an episode, and I kind of thought that would be the last time I talked about the card for a while. Apparently not. Yesterday, Sheldon Menery from the Rules Committee, who kind of is seen as the face of the Rules Committee because Sheldon does interact with the community, at least from what I've seen, the most out of the members of the Rules Committee for the most part. So yeah, usually we can see Sheldon's opinions. And yesterday, Sheldon shared his opinion in an article on that card on Elesh Norn. And yeah, not what I expected to see. So yeah, the article is titled Elesh Norn, Mother Machines, the Good and the Bad. Commander Rules Committee member Sheldon Menery weighs in on the most controversial Phyrexia LB1 preview, Elesh Norn, Mother Machines, and what it means for the format. So in my episode on Elesh Norn, I did talk about how she's very, very powerful and how she can definitely be brutal. But I don't think I ever mentioned that she is controversial because from what I'd seen, I didn't see really any controversy around the card, but apparently, according to Sheldon, there is. And so now we kind of get an in-depth look on, how Sheldon of the Rules Committee and potentially other members of the Rules Committee might view this card. And yeah, definitely a surprise to me. So I will link this article in the description, of course, below. So yeah, check it out, read it if you'd like to. I will highlight the kind of key pieces of the article, though, and kind of give you my thoughts on them as well. Again, definitely not an episode I expected to be doing, but really quick, let's talk about just the card, just so as a reminder of what it does. Elesh Norn, Mother Machines, 4/7 Phyrexian Praetor Vigilance for 4 and a white. But permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control a trigger. That ability triggers initial time. Basically, Panharmonicon on a commander. Permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. Kind of like a Torpor Orb, but for everything and just for your opponents. So, yeah, definitely a very powerful commander. One that, again, like all the Praetors, essentially, big upside for you, big downside for your opponents, kind of on both halves, essentially. And yeah, again, like I said, very powerful, but also, can definitely be brutal. But yeah, let's see what Sheldon had to say about this card. First, in the section mechanics, Sheldon had this to say: this version of Elesh Norn is destined to be a new piece in any kind of Staxy deck, and it will certainly get the job done. It's hard to imagine a deck that wouldn't get at least a little benefit from having it in 99, even if that deck is only taking advantage of one side or the other. So, okay, just giving you my thoughts kind of on this. Most Commander players don't play stacks just to play stacks. Again, when it comes to like stacks players, typically that's going to be in CDH. And again, I'm not an expert on CDH, so sure, if this card's good in CDH, cool. If not, whatever. But I mean, when it comes to, just your typical casual Commander player, they're not like, oh, I'm going to add this stacksy piece to my deck just to, do that. That's not typically how casual Commander players build their decks. And then, yeah, when it comes to getting a benefit from one side or the other, if you don't have any ETBs in your deck, you're not getting any benefit from that first part. Or if you have a couple, yeah, the chance of you actually kind of hitting one of them and getting double benefit, cool. If you only have, limited ways to actually benefit from that, you're not going to just put in your deck just because of that second part. That to me just is kind of a weird argument again. It's like, I don't think casual players out there are just going like, oh, cool, yeah, that first part, double ETB, don't get any value out of that. But the second half, huge, downside for all of those players I'm playing against that are playing, incredibly focused ETB decks. Yeah, that's exactly what I need for my decks, just for that. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with Sheldon here on this piece. And let's go to the next section. The ability is also generic enough that we can explore lots of different themes with Elesh Norn, Mother Machines, whether we're using her as a commander, secret commander, or simply one of the 99. I don't think I have a deck with white in it that she wouldn't enhance. Okay. Oh yes, I mean, yes, Elesh Norn definitely has potential as a commander, could definitely be one of the most powerful white commanders out there, yes. But again, you are playing mono white, and therefore you just are inherently at a disadvantage. Yes, Wizards is giving more and more cards to help mono white out, but still, in my opinion, it's not at the level of, you know, other color identities. And yeah, so again, you're inherently at a disadvantage if you're playing with that as the commander. Sure, secret commander, but then, yeah, if she's removed or permanently removed, then, yeah, you're not really going to be able to utilize her. Simply one of the 99. Sure, there are definitely decks that can be enhanced with her in the 99. Again, decks that focus on ETBs. Yes, those decks can utilize her as another kind of Panharmonicon type effect, essentially, with the additional benefit of, again, potentially shutting your opponents down on their ETBs. Again, she is a creature, which is the most, you know, susceptible to removal. She has no protection from anything. Essentially, she doesn't have, you know, hexproof or pro a certain color or anything like that. Yeah, so a simple Doomblade could take her out. And yeah, when it comes to saying, like, I don't have a deck with white in it that she wouldn't enhance, I mean, not that I'm representative, because I would say that I'm not, but, you know, like, I just looked at, you know, my 9 deck list, essentially, you know, my main 9 decks that I play, and, the only one out of the entire, you know, list of decks that I would actually even consider if it was budget, which it's not going to be, would be my Giganta deck, because yeah, that one does focus on ETBs and has a decent amount of ETBs. My other decks don't. So any other deck that has white that, you know, like, that might have a couple of ETBs here and there, sure, she might help out in very specific situations for those. If I happen to get her out and then happen to have another creature that an ETB, cool, I could double up on that trigger. But I'm not just going to throw it in that deck just in case that small scenario happens when the deck doesn't focus on ETBs. Or just because it has, again, that potentially negative impact on my opponents, who I don't know if they're running a lot of ETBs. So, like, I mean, I can't, again, I might not be a representative, but I'd like you to kind of, you know, comment below. Out of your collection, you know, again, assume Elesh Norn is 10 cents. It's just not going to be. Out of your collection at home, what out of your, you know, decks that have white in them, which of your decks could use it? Which of your decks could literally be like, oh yeah, sure, I've got, okay, 20 ETBs in this deck. Sure, I might be able to consider Elesh Norn for the deck. Or, you know, this is a Blink deck. Obviously, yeah, I'll consider it, yes. But when it comes to just, you know, a regular deck that just happens to have white in it, I don't think it's a card you just slap in the deck. That's, in my opinion, just not accurate. Yeah, and exactly. I also kind of want to think, you know, this is not going to be a budget card. At all, you know, not just because of Commander, but also because of, you know, Standard and other formats. So it's just like, it's not gonna be a budget card. It's a Mythic. It's probably a chase card in the set, so it's gonna be pretty high price. So I don't think you're gonna see it anywhere near as much as probably Sheldon fears that you're going to see it. Yeah, you'll see it more than, you know, other things, you know, that might be scary as well. But I mean, I don't think it's gonna cause massive problems in the Commander format. Moving on. It's not just those two controversial cards, though, talking about Dockside as well as, goodness gracious, Thassa's Oracle. Don't know why that escaped me this morning. As I pointed out with one of my own decks, enters the battlefield triggers are extremely popular in Commander, and it's not like designers are going to stop going to that well anytime soon. So, yeah, I mean, you could point out that, yeah, sure, okay, it stops these two things, but it also stops all these other fun ETB things. I agree that there's a lot of ETBs in Commander, but I wouldn't say that, like, a ton of decks focus on them or, you know, are completely dependent upon them. Sure, I mean, it's going to shut down a Yarok deck that is focused on ETBs, or maybe a Brago deck that is focused on Blink. But again, this effect is on a creature that can be removed. So it's not like it's an enchantment that is hard to deal with, or an indestructible permanent or anything like that. Like, yes, you can still remove it. You can still move forward with your game plan. From what I researched on EDH Rec, Blink, which again focuses heavily on ETBs, is the 26th most popular theme on EDH Rec. Obviously, that doesn't include tribal decks either in that calculation. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to affect some decks. There are definitely cards out there that do affect some decks. I mean, Torpor Orb isn't banned for a reason. Now, yeah, I mean, Elesh Norn has more versatility than a Torpor Orb. She's also easier to deal with than a Torpor Orb. But, like, I guess I really don't see where this fear is coming from, that this is a card that is going to be incredibly problematic. And, yeah, I mean, shouldn't there be kind of, like, you know, ways to combat certain strategies? Like, again, when it comes to, like, mass landfall, or, you know, mass amount of lands, there are ways to combat that, you know, in some appropriate ways now, you know, in Commander. But also when you're combating, ETBs, shouldn't there be ways to also combat ETBs for that player that's going off with ETBs as well? I don't know. Next up in the section labeled The Bad. I mean, not necessarily good for the format in things like play patterns or deck building or for future card design. So again, talking about how this card just isn't inherently good for the format. Before I dig in here, I'll recognize that not every card is made for Commander, or even with Commander in mind. I get it. I know that given the larger story arc, as an Elesh Norn card was going to be made, needed to get made. In fact, it didn't, however, need to be the card that got made. Yes, I mean, I agree. Obviously, not every card is made for Commander. There are certain things that are made for Commander in mind as well, though, especially when it comes to legendary creatures. Yeah, sure. Okay. And for the ones that are quote unquote problematic, it's the rules committee's job to just remove them from the format, though. Like, that's the job of the rules committee. So, like, Wizards makes a card that might be problematic for the format. If it is, then yeah, the rules committee is there to ban it. So it's just kind of a weird, the card didn't have to be made, but like this card is made in a set that's not a Commander set. Now, if this was like a Commander set, I would understand that point more, if this was a Commander product, but it's not. So yeah, I don't understand what the point being made here is right now. Next underneath this section, to generically good. When 20 or more of our cards have been decided before we actually start building a deck, we've headed in a dangerous direction. We've sacrificed creativity on the altar of efficiency. Again, I don't see Elesh Norn as a card that just like any deck that has white is just like, yeah, I have to throw this card in. I don't agree with that. Again, if your deck doesn't have ETBs, doesn't focus heavily on ETBs, you're not just going to throw that card in your deck just to be like, oh yeah, I got this Staxy piece that shuts down my opponents that happen to have ETBs because everyone is playing heavily focused ETBs. And there's no way they can deal with this 4/7 Vigilant, no protection Praetor. I just don't think that this card is anywhere near considered to be an auto-include in a white deck. And also, when it comes to just the concept of like, oh no, like these cards are just too efficient. Does every deck you build have to be the most efficient build you can possibly make? For the casual, it's a casual format. It is a casual format. You can choose to be like, yeah, no, I won't include this in my deck. Can't you just put your own restrictions like on your own decks? If things are getting too samey and boring to you, like, can't you just make your own restrictions? I mean, whether that's, a budget restriction, which obviously would just inherently not allow you to utilize Elesh Norn, or, I mean, like, Eddie's built some decks too that are just, like, certain restrictions are like, you know what? This deck is just all enchantments. All I can include are enchantments in the deck. Or, I mean, including, like, a companion like a Karuga could, like, change that up too. Like, okay, just inherent restrictions. Doesn't have to be, like, a card like Karuga that does that. It could also just be your own restrictions that you just put on the deck. You don't have to build the most efficient deck ever and be like, well, I'm building this deck, and it's so boring, but, I have to include these 20 cards. It's like, you don't have to. No one is forcing you to build that deck this way. This is a casual format that you are playing for fun. Play it for fun. Do the fun thing. Do whatever you want. You don't need to build a deck with this card because you're like, well, the checklist says I need to include Elesh Norn in the deck, so check. I don't get that argument personally. I might be off on that though. Yeah, comment below. That's just my perspective, but yeah. And again, I don't inherently think that Elesh Norn is a card that is an auto-include anywhere near it. Too easy value is the next section, and there I'm highlighting. Actually, I should go back really quick, actually, because I should have highlighted this. So let's go back like 2 sentences. A card that just rewards you for playing Magic for just doing things you were already doing. I'm looking at you, Tatiova Benthic Druid, is not healthy for Commander. Whoa. When did we bring up Tatiova in this? Anyways, Elesh Norn Mother Machines is the same kind of card. Our decks, and I really mean that collectively, not royally, have a high number of enters battlefield triggers in them. So, okay, first of all, I didn't realize Tatiova was on the chopping block. Did you? Yeah, Tatiova's powerful. Definitely very powerful. Again, playing lands is something you're going to be doing in Commander anyways. Drawing cards is great. So yeah, Tatiova is a powerful commander. I didn't realize Tatiova was ban-worthy though. Yeah, that's a surprise. But again, sure, if you look through the most popular cards in Commander, I mean, we could see how many are affected. And I mean, it's not nearly as high as you might think. I mean, I guess it depends on your perspective, but yeah, I mean, I just looked through like the top like 100 cards in Commander that are permanents. I took out lands because I mean, lands are like affected like weird. I mean, like Bajuka Bog sure has a downside for this because you don't get that trigger, but also you mean like like Boros Garrison, like the bounce lands. Actually, your opponents benefit from that no ETB because they would come into play untapped and they wouldn't bounce a land. So like, yeah, I mean, I took out the lands anyways. Regardless, permanents, legal commander, top 100 cards. Just looking through there, like about 15% of the top 100 non-land permanents would be affected by it. Sure. But, like, is that really that high of a number? And that's, I mean, I don't know. Like, again, like your casual table, when you're playing against people, like, how many cards in a game is this card going to affect? Are there really that many players that are so heavily focused on ETBs that, like, this is going to shut them all down? I don't think so. Like, how many people, like, if they're running a lot of ETBs in their own, like... I don't think this card is going to have that big of a negative impact where it necessitates anywhere near a ban. The majority of Magic players don't just choose to utilize Staxy pieces in their deck either. So, like, again, like, if they don't have that kind of a benefit for that first part, are they really going to include their deck just to, like, hate on ETBs, which might not be at the table that they're playing at? I just don't see it. No, I'm just going to read this entire section because this one's actually really important too. What the Rules Committee's members said. So Sheldon's kind of giving some insight on talking to the Rules Committee members. We saw this card design. Normally, we see the file, make our comments, and send them in jointly within a week or two. As soon as I saw the card, I sent off an email saying, please never print this card. Shortly thereafter, I found out I wasn't the only one of the four of us, this was before Olivia and Jim joined us, who had done that. We, of course, then talked about it together as well and reiterated our point during the joint feedback. This is not a healthy card for Commander. This does not look like it's going to offer positive play experiences. It's dangerously designed and then push mana-wise. I get it's a main set card, not a Commander product, and I'll return to the recognition that not everything has to be designed with Commander in mind. I'll also point out that it would also be tremendously naive for a design team to ignore Commander's existence when designing cards. Further, I have concerns that the design of this card getting through may impact the design of future cards. The good news is that they can design whatever cards they need to, and we have remedies in place should things go awry. Although, to be clear, I'm not suggesting they will, just the possibility exists more strongly in this card than in others. And while I've offered some insight in how the RC operates or thinks strategically, I'll point out that most of what I've said here is personal opinion. Certainly, any editorialization of mine is mine in mine alone. So, okay, the thing that really stands out to me with this is that Sheldon reached out directly to Wizards, and someone else in the Rules Committee basically did too, and said, like, please never print this card. I mean, it's... Okay, like, it's just kind of a weird... Like, again, the Rules Committee's job isn't to design the cards, obviously. The Rules Committee's job is to manage the Commander format, and if a card necessitates a ban, it necessitates a ban. But in this, it's just kind of like the Rules Committee, it makes it seem like the Rules Committee doesn't want to be put in a situation where they have to ban a card. Versus like them actually just doing that, which is kind of their job to do. Like their job isn't to design the cards, to determine what cards get printed. It's to react to those essentially and do what is best for the community. And it struck me as weird to kind of ask that of Wizards making the cards essentially. It just, they don't want to be put in that situation where they can kind of be seen in a negative light for actually banning a card, and that's I can understand that, but also I mean that's inherently what your job is to do, is to be the one to make those tough decisions. And again, I disagree with this decision, but you're in the position to make that decision. You're not in the position to request that card's not made, so you don't have to make that decision. So I found that kind of a weird statement. And again, Sheldon is saying that this entire editorialization is his opinion, but also Sheldon's not the only Rules Committee member that actually reached out to Wizards for that. So at the very least, two of the original four Rules Committee members, if you didn't know that Olivia and Jim got added in earlier this year, basically now there are 6 Rules Committee members. Yeah, I mean, so we're not sure exactly how many Rules Committee members are for this card getting banned, how many are not. I mean, I'd say at least 2. Potentially, 3 out of the original 4, essentially. So, I mean, either, 1/3 or half of the Rules Committee is for this card getting banned, which, again, is very surprising to me. I don't think this card necessitates a ban, But, I mean, I've been wrong before on what cards are, ban worthy and what ones aren't. So, the card's future in Commander, let's read this final section. Please remember a few things when regarding changes to Commander. First, we really do things right out of the gate. Lucha the Spell Chaser was an exception in exceptional circumstances. Second, I'm one of 6 people who work together to make said changes. Even if I feel very strongly about the card, I would still have to convince the group to take action. I'm firmly in the camp that the card is a net negative for the format, but that's not the only part of the calculus. What remains to be seen and observed over the next quarter or two is if it is negative enough to take action on. If it demonstrates that it's not having the impact that I caution it could, then we don't have anything to worry about. I'll say once again, it's not what the card does, it's what a card does to the format that's important. So, okay, sorry Lutri fans out there, but the Lutri banning was definitely well-deserved as a pre-printing ban. Because again, Lutri would just be basically an auto include in any deck that includes Izzet, because yeah, it's just a free extra card. So that's why that one had to be banned. Elesh Norn is nowhere near as ban-worthy or even ban-worthy to be mentioned in the same breath as Lutri, that pre-Lutri ban. So it's like, wait, are you going to ban Elesh Norn before it even comes out? That would be very surprising. I don't think that would happen, but yeah. In my opinion, Elesh Norn definitely does not deserve the ban. Is it powerful? Yes. Is it ban-worthy? Nowhere near, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, there's some brutal things that can do, but there's plenty of other brutal cards out there that are not banned, and there's plenty of other cards out there that probably would deserve a ban well before Elesh Norn does. I mean, I think the vast majority of the community, and I could be wrong on this, comment below, but I think the vast majority of the community would probably rather see like Dockside Extortionist banned before Elesh Norn. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts are on that. Again, the article I will link below. You can read it for yourself. And again, Sheldon's definitely entitled to his own opinion, and the rest of the Rules Committee is as well. It's just kind of surprising to me, and it kind of just came out of nowhere to me where, again, I talked about the card. I thought, again, powerful, can do some brutal things. Ban-worthy, nowhere near. I did not expect to be talking about it again, but here we are. So yeah. Again, take all this with a grain of salt. We don't know what is, in the future for Elesh Norn. Yeah, I mean, could be banned pretty shortly after release. I mean, I guess the possibility is still out there that could be banned before the release even. So players, again, if they are planning on banning it, I mean, I think it'd be better for them to do before the card even comes out, because if they're planning on doing it anyways, like in the first couple weeks, or like the first month of the card being out, players are like, spend whatever, it's gonna be $40-50 on this card, and then it's just banned. And you maybe built an entire deck around it or whatnot, or you got a couple for, your different decks. Again, Sheldon is saying, if it's a auto-include for mono, or for any deck that has white, then you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I've got 9 decks that have white. I'll buy 9 of them. It's what, $360 if it's a $40 card? So, yeah, I mean, if the Rules Committee is planning on banning it, it'd probably be better for them to do so before the card actually comes out, just to save some people from spending money they don't need to spend. But also, I really hope they don't ban it, because I don't think it's a ban-worthy card. So yeah, it's just, again, a weird kind of situation that I did not expect to see. So anyways, I could be wrong on that though. So yeah, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on it. Do you think that it is a ban-worthy card? Do you think that it's going to be problematic? Do you think it's not? Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.